What's up, everybody? Thanks again for joining me for another edition of March 4th with Mike Bauman. I, of course, am your host, Mike Bauman. Whoever you are, wherever you're listening from, thank you so much for checking out the podcast. If you're a returning listener, I greatly appreciate your continued love and support. And if you're a brand new listener to the show, man, thank you so much for hopping aboard that pirate ship. You can follow me on Instagram at March 4th Pod, on YouTube at March 4th Pod. My website is march4th.podbean.com. The link tree with all of my stuff is in the podcast description for this episode. Y'all made it here, so you found me somehow. And I truly appreciate each and every one of you checking out another edition of the March 4th with Mike Bauman podcast. Some of you might be able to tell if you've listened to the show before that my voice is a little bit different. It's a little lower, not quite a baritone, but not quite the normal Midwest, accent that I got. Um, it's not that pronounced. But yeah, I'm a little under the weather still. It's been a crazy couple of weeks, an emotional couple of weeks, but also a lot of positivity in there too over the last couple of weeks. And that person knows who they are, and I thank them very much for their support. Um, but yeah, it's been a roller coaster the last couple of weeks, you guys. My stepmom's dad passed away 2 weeks ago tomorrow, as of recording the intro and close to this podcast, and then my grandmother passed away the very next day. My mom's side. It was Monday, August, I think it was the 28th. If I look at the calendar, because my memory is lagging. Yeah. So Sunday, September 27th, my stepmom's dad passed away. And then the very next day, my grandma Ratty on my mom's side passed away Monday, August 28th, in the afternoon. She was surrounded by family. My mom was there, my aunt was there, my uncle was there, a couple of my cousins. So, death is never easy. My grandma had a great run. She was 94 years old. She had 10 grandkids. She had 12 great grandkids. And I got a picture of her with me right now that I keep by me every time I record these, man. I have a picture of my grandma and grandpa. It's one of my favorite, if not my favorite picture of them that I have. And I keep it with me. It just kind of gives me a sense of peace, and I'm happy that they're reunited. They're a big part of me. I got their blood in me, but more important than that, I had their love in my life for a really long time. I actually got a chance to speak to my grandmother on the phone about 2 weeks before she passed away. And it's kind of weird thinking about it now. When you talk to somebody, you don't necessarily think, oh, is this going to be the last time I'm ever talking to this person? And I was kind of conscious of it. Um, I was kind of conscious of it when we were speaking, but she was kind of focused on just finishing her pie at the assisted living center that she was living in. She had taken a long nap, I remember her telling me, and she woke up late, so she was eating later than she normally did, and I think she had a nice hunk of pie and some ice cream in front of her, and she was just kind of talking about what the next move was and whatnot, and so it made me sad to know that, the last few days of her life, there was definitely pain. Um, you know, my mom and my aunt and my uncle, and even my cousins who were there, those last few days they saw her in a really difficult state. I was more fortunate the last time I saw her in person in early July. Um, she had just gone into the hospital. I think she fell. I think we kind of estimated with what happened, and some of the stuff that was wrong with her back and the pain that she was having, that she probably fell. But it was nice. I got a chance to see her when I went home, about 2 months ago, and talk to her about the good old days in Cleveland, Ohio, where she's from, and has a lot of really good memories, and talk to her about my grandfather. And um, so yeah, it's tough, man. Like, my grandma and grandpa were opposites. My grandpa had dementia, And my grandma still had her mind. I mean, she was getting forgetful, right? She was 94, but she still had her mind for the most part and had pretty good memory recall on things. And especially when I would talk to her about the old days and stuff. And so I'm glad that I had those kind of as my last moments with her in person, and we got a chance to speak on the phone. And but yeah, man, they were a big part of my life. They moved back from Florida to Ohio when all their kids started having grandkids. They had retired down there and then came back up because they wanted to be a big part of all of our lives, and they were. My grandpa made it to 84, and she lived another decade plus after his passing. Almost 12 years to the day after his passing, and there was no grandkid that was more important than the other. They went to our games, they went to our plays, they were there for our graduations, they were there for my spelling bee when I was 12 years old at Springfield High School. I still remember staring out at a mostly dark crowd, and the spotlight was shining bright when I had to stand up and spell calculated, and I got nervous and I said CAC instead of CALCULATED, calculated. I got nervous and messed it up. They were there for that. So I feel really fortunate, man. I have numerous friends who lost their grandparents a lot younger than me, and I'm really fortunate that they were a big part of my life and my cousins' lives. And so yeah, it was tough because my mom was also moving into her new house at the same time I was home for the funeral. Um, it was just a lot, man. And then like the night of the funeral, one of my cousins got the wheels stolen off their new SUV. A couple days later, her sister, my other cousin, got hit on her way to pick up a friend from the airport when she was back home in North Carolina. Like it was wild. It was a comedy of errors, but by the grace of God and the love that we have for each other and family and close friends, um, and other people in my life who are really sweet and awesome, um, who had a lot of kind words for me that really helped get me through the week. Like I got through the week, and then this past week, I got sick and had a sinus infection, and then I started to get a sore throat. And then yesterday I worked from home and was just drinking tea and drinking a lot of water. And so today I still kind of have this late night jazz radio talk show voice, but I don't have a sore throat anymore. So suffice to say, I'm here, and I know the first episode of September is coming out a week later than it normally would, but it's just because it's just been a lot, man, over the last couple of weeks, and I'm not one to put a ton on social media about my personal life. My Instagram is for my podcast, and I try to really keep it about that. And occasionally I share things about the people in my life and what's going on, but if there's a silver lining, it was a good time to you know get a chance to see some family I hadn't seen in a minute, get a chance to help my mom out with some of the stuff in her new house. I'm not the handiest dude in the world, but I helped her set up her sprinkler system, and help move some stuff. Because your boy's not, I'm not built like a tank, but for 35, I'm in pretty decent shape. I'm all right. So yeah, man, and my dad being home at the same time with my stepmom's father passing, got a chance to see him, got a chance to see my sister, my brother Brandon, got a chance to see my brother Greg. So yeah, man, cousins, it wasn't all bad. And then this past week, just getting back into the flow of things here in Tennessee and being a little under the weather. It is what it is, man. There's a lot of people who got a lot worse than me, so don't feel sorry for me, but I'm just keeping you guys up to speed, or getting you up to speed rather, on what it's been like over the last 2 weeks for your boy. But I feel very fortunate and very blessed to have the people in my life that I have right now, and I really feel like there's brighter days ahead. And if there's any consolation, it's that my grandma's reunited with my grandpa, and I felt like that was a good tip of the cap from the universe that she was buried 12 years to the day that he passed, which was September 1st. So it's kind of wild, man. It makes me believe in something, and it makes me believe that there is a loving force in the universe, and it guides all of us. And even when we kind of stray from the path, there it's always there. And we're all connected, all over the world, all races, shapes, sizes, colors, occupations, and the white noise of life gets in the way a lot, man. And really, when I go to bed at night, I'm conscious of how lucky I am to be alive and how lucky I am to have the people in my circle that I do. And that circle is growing. And I think there's brighter days ahead. So I'm glad my grandma isn't suffering anymore. And to anybody out there who might be suffering, man, just know that it gets better. Know that it gets better. Know that you're loved, you're worthy, you're worth it, and there are brighter days ahead. And that's coming from somebody who struggles with anxiety and you know irrational thoughts and compulsions and all kinds of stuff, man. And through therapy, music, a good inner circle, exercise. Although this week I didn't because I was sick. I digress. All those things really helped me, man. So just know that there are brighter days ahead, and just wake up with an attitude of gratitude, and I promise you things will get better. And speaking of an attitude of gratitude and a good inner circle, this week's guest is a return guest to the pod. I've been fortunate to have made good connections doing this over the last couple of years, and good friendships, and new friendships, new connections, new colleagues. And it always makes me feel good when I do the show and there are people who were on it who want to come back. And this is a guy out of Canada that I have a ton of respect for. His birth name is Aaron, but his music name is Krosst Out. And some of you listening to this, even if you're first time listeners, maybe you are listening because you are a friend and or fan of Krosst Out. So thank you for hopping aboard that pirate ship. But yeah, Krosst Out's based out of Toronto right now. His girlfriend Melodica is also an amazing musical artist and a very kind person as well. She's got new music out. Go check it out. The links are in the description for the episode, but please stay tuned for the episode. But yeah, he's a good cat, man. We connected a little over 2 years ago when I was first kickstarting the pod, and really, getting off and running with this bad boy. And we connected through Instagram, like so many artists that I have on this show. And I really have a lot of respect for him. His music is very personal, and he's a guy that's not afraid to say what's on his mind. He's not afraid to stir the pot. And and I think that's something that's cool about his music, and that's something that we talk about in this conversation too, about art saying something, and challenging the status quo. And over the last couple of years, it's been pretty crazy, right, with COVID, and how that affected the entertainment industry. And as we talk about in this show too, you know what it was like for him as an artist, and the challenges that presented itself. I think at the time he and I first linked up a couple years ago, he and Melodica were in Montreal, and now they're in Toronto, and have been back in Toronto. Um, so we have a discussion where we talk about a lot of that. We talk about the new music that he's put out so far in 2023. If you count the sped up version of This the New Ish, there's 5 new singles that Aaron's dropped, I think, just since May. This the New Ish with Jay Bird, Blood on Your Hands, which came out on June 9th with Roma Johnson. Die Tonight came out on July 28th with PsydeShow, and the instrumental It's Okay, I'll Be All Right dropped at that same time. And like I said, This the Newish was May, and then a couple weeks later in May, I think it was May 26th, the sped up version of that came out. So in total, counting the sped up version, yeah, five new ones so far in 2023. And in 2022, he did the 5-year remaster of Life of the Party, Three Cheers Bottle Boy featuring Polychuck and Jaybird, and Anesthesia featuring On Q, who I know all of those are folks that Aaron has loved working with, and respects in music as well. So he's been a busy guy, and it's been cool to connect with him and see him on his journey, see him work on his craft. Same thing with Melodica, and the journey hasn't been easy, and we talk about that. But I'm really excited for him. He's got a forthcoming LP coming out So stay tuned for that. It's called I Had a Dream, I Didn't Have Eyes. But yeah, we go a lot of places in this conversation, and it was just cool to reconnect with him and talk about everything that he's working on and all the irons he's got in the fire. So without further ado, I'm gonna shut my big yapper. I might even take a few ibuprofen for my voice, and I'm gonna give you guys my conversation with Krosst Out. Here it is. Well, there we go. Krosst Out. It's great to have you back on the show, man. It's wild that it's been like 2 years, I think, since we initially connected, but I'm digging the new material, and I'm glad that you reached out, and I wanted to get you back on anyway, truthfully, with the new record coming out, man. So it's perfect timing with the show and with what you've got going on. So thank you so much for joining me again, brother. I appreciate it.
And thanks for having me. I definitely appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Well, let's just start with the new singles, and since I'm in the corporate world, I'm gonna refer to the one you dropped in May as this the new ish, just because I still have I have a job in corporate healthcare, but everybody else knows what I'm talking about. But that one and Blood on Your Hands, man, I thought it was really cool. The music videos, it was like a short film basically. In the first one, you're getting your butt whooped, and in the second one, you get your retribution. But just talk to me and the people about the vibe on the new material. I mean, you've always blended genres as far as like punk and rock and even some like metal and some almost some like I don't want to say like hardcore vocals, but I mean like the energy is hardcore as far as being hyped and stuff. But just talk about what it was like with working with Jay Bird and Roman Johnson and I know Cross Stitch, did he produce or mix was it Blood on Your Hands? He mixed that one.
Yeah, he's been mixing all of the stuff. I've been working with a couple of different producers. So Jaybird was this the new shit. Can I swear?
Yes, you can
Okay.
totally. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, all right.
yeah.
So yeah, this the new shit. That was Jaybird, and then Roma Johnson. Yeah, that was Blood on Your Hands. But um, and then there's a couple of other singles that Cross Stitch has produced that are not quite out yet. But yeah, those ones are just super different. I thought it would be really cool to kind of come in and um, you know, I always try to reinvent my sound when I'm doing something and do something different each and every time. And that's exactly what this was. It was sort of just like, all right, here we go again. Let's do it all again. Let me reintroduce myself to you. And I think like I've said this before on podcasts, but like my favorite records are the ones that like um have been almost like are the records that people weren't expecting the sound to be, where it's like Yeezus, like no one was expecting Kanye to kind of take that route sonically, and it was just brash and abrupt. And same with like Under Oath when they came in with Define the Gray Line, it was brash and abrupt, and like they were supposed to be Fall Out Boy part like two, really like second Fall Out Boy, what their label wanted them to be, and it's just an act of defiance. And so these singles were sort of almost an act of defiance of like what you thought my sound was.
Yeah, and for I believe it was for the latest one, Die Tonight, with PsydeShow. One of the kind of promo posts that you did on your Instagram, was it Franz Kafka? Am I saying that right? It's only because of their stupidity that they're able to be so sure of themselves. It was kind of like, and that song is like it's guitar driven, but it's also super angry. It's kind of it seems like a real middle finger to the establishment type of deal. And then at the end of it, was that Lewis Black at the end of it, like the outro of the song? Was that who that
Yeah,
was talking
yeah,
about? People
yeah,
would just, what, you're gonna listen to somebody just because they got a sport coat on, basically.
yeah. What? Why? Because you're wearing a tie? Yeah. I'm a big podcast guy, and Mark Norman and Sam Morrell have like one of the best podcasts, and we had already actually recorded that song, and it was basically done. But I was just that was there was 1 week that episode dropped, and I was like, that is the perfect ending to the song. Like that is like what we're trying to portray. on that song. Yeah, it's a very politically charged song.
I was gonna say the last time you and I talked, I mean, we were in the throes of COVID in 2021, and I remember you saying how, and I can't remember. I think you and Melodica might have been in Montreal at the time, or you had just moved. It was something like that about 2 years ago. Um, but I remember you telling me like things were basically on like super lockdown up there, and obviously being a musician and being a creative, that I mean it messed up a lot of people's lives. And I think, looking back, I'm sure there's a lot of changes that the powers that be, or at least you'd like to think maybe would have made, knowing what we know now. But does that song have to do with that, or is it kind of more, is it more more of a broader scope than just COVID?
I mean, to be honest, this whole record was sort of written with a large bulk of it was written in sort of the series of a couple of months, and it was still at the very like height of COVID. There was still a lot of like a lot of talk of it and a lot of animosity around it as well. And at a certain point, I was just very tired of COVID, like being locked in the house and the authorities telling you what you can and cannot do. And it was very like I was in a very dark place when I started writing this record, and this was the first. Actually, "Die Tonight" was the first song that I had started working on for this whole album, and it kind of just helped guide everything of like where we were gonna go. And yeah, I just really felt like there is just so much bullshit going on right now, and then like let's get the pistol whipping some of these clowns in Parliament Hill. Like that was that. Yeah, that was one of the lines, you know. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. Like looking back, I think there was things I was probably wrong about with COVID. Like, I mean, at the time, um, my ex, with her situation with her parents, like I was trying to be really safe, you know what I mean, and be safe with the people around me and stuff. But now that I look back on certain things, um, yeah, when you think about people who lost their jobs, when you think about the entertainment industry and how, there's venues that closed that'll never reopen. There's a lot of small businesses that were affected. Um, and when I look back, like, there was a time where I was kind of like, man, maybe if more people got vaccinated, this thing wouldn't have spread so much. But now it's like we don't really know, you know what I mean? So but the fact that there were so many people who lost their jobs and had their livelihoods affected, that's the part that disappoints me the most, because I'm never pro anybody, being out of work and not being able to provide, not being able to eat. You know what I mean? And then, like you said, the whole thing, I mean, then it became super political, and it was like, you could kind of tell like, oh, this person's this person's that. And that's the thing that made me sad. And like, my day job is in healthcare. So, I mean, there were numbers that I was aware of just in terms of like how many people were in the hospital that had it, which was very real. But in terms of just how they went about all of us coexisting, I think is where the powers that be, if you will, really screwed things up, because people shouldn't have lost their jobs. And I think there was a better way to protect the most vulnerable people while also still keeping everybody else kind of at work, you know what I mean, or fed. So yeah, it's still a weird time. I feel like it's still a weird time post all that stuff.
Yeah, there is still a little bit of that in the air, and I think an edginess around things. But I think there's more people are willing to just, and now more than ever, kind of risk it and not waste their time on certain things. I mean, I know me especially. Like I'm not for the bullshit anymore. Like I had so much time taken away from me, um and people telling me what to do or like how to live, and yeah, I feel like it's sort of like there was like that gap, and then now you like have the choice to continue on with what you were doing, or like let's flip the switch, and that's sort of what I think we've been doing. All right, this got to be different now.
Yeah, I think a positive thing that happened, man, was myself included, is it made a lot of people kind of hit the reset button. And I know for me, in a weird way, that isolation was kind of, I think it definitely ramped up my anxiety. It's, I've said this before on other podcasts I've done with people, but it's like there's a difference between like, oh, I enjoy my alone time versus like, oh, I can't go outside or I can't go here. You know what I mean? And but the positive was it really kind of was the kick in the butt that I needed in a lot of ways to start doing this podcast again and connecting with people. I had kind of closed off this part of myself, and it's weird because this is like, this is, like my form of self-expression and being able to connect with people in a positive way as somebody who loves music and loves, conversations with people. But I'm not myself a creator of music, at least none that I would share with anybody, because I stink on ice playing the guitar because gosh, I haven't picked up the thing in months. I digress, but yeah, man. So it's weird, but I think if there's a positive spin on that time period, is I think it probably helped people figure out what's really important to them, who's really important to them. And I would imagine as a creator, just with the for lack of a better way to say it, the piss and vinegar that's in these first three singles from you in 2023, it really got your gears going too. And that's the positive thing about anger, right? Which, I mean, you've explored that in your music before, and you've been vulnerable before in your music with emotions. And um especially if people go back and listen to phone calls with ghosts. um you know so I'm to say all that, I think maybe that's one of the positives that came out of it, right? Is it, I, as a creator, it got some juices going for you, or a flow going for you that brought out another opportunity for you to change your sound up even more.
Yeah, no, it definitely did. I think like um it's almost in the way of like writing a book, like writing a novel. I'm trying to, for me at least, like I'm trying to tell a story or convey like certain thoughts and points and keep everything coherent into one concept. Or it's at least like different concepts all under, they all kind of are joined up. But yeah, I really like when I had started writing this, it was like I was just, man, it's crazy to think about now, but like it was just like I was just so angry. Like I had anger before. I've always had anger before, but I like at this but it felt like a different kind of anger. I feel like it was just like it was like a lost kind of anger. Like I just feel like the world is like in so much hurt, and it's just the world is ending. Like I still feel like the world is just dying. Like the thing, and that was sort of like what this whole thing was like this is end of the world type music. Like that was what I was trying to get across.
To hear you say that, yeah, it definitely puts in the perspective of those three singles too. Because yeah, like I said, I mean, for lack of a better way to say it, there's a lot of piss and vinegar in there. But I think what's cool though too is even though each one of them, it's very like in your face, they also musically have different vibes. Like Die Tonight is very guitar driven. Blood on Your Hands has like that really heavy, almost distorted bass throughout the whole song. And then this new ish with Jay Bird is like at hook, just that main hook is kind of real bouncy. You know what I mean? Like, so I think it's cool how even in the first three, it's kind of, it's I feel like an extension of stuff you've done before where you're exploring these different genres within your music, but it's still you. And there's like that thread of like, oh, this is like angry in your face, but the musicality of each one of them is a little bit different. They kind of stand on their own. So that's pretty cool, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I try to at least I'm not trying to really go and do like some crazy different stuff, but like I said, I am trying to grow with each song and each record.
Yeah, and the name of the full length is going to be I Had a Dream, I Didn't Have Eyes, which this might not like and again, if you don't want to elaborate on exactly what that means, but it actually, like, I'm a big horror movie fan. and it actually made me think of Event Horizon, like at the end where he's like, I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. Do you know the
No.
one I'm talking about? Oh, dude, do you like horror movies?
Yeah, I've become a fan.
Yeah, Event Horizon is gnarly, man. Like I don't want to give it too much away, but I'll just say this since you haven't seen it. When he says that line, it like makes your skin crawl. So but it's basically just like, yeah, it's Lawrence Fishburne's in it. Oh gosh, who's the name of the one of the main actors from if it's Sam Neill? He's been in Jurassic Park and
Oh yeah,
several.
that guy. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But there's a line in the movie related to that. Now this is gonna seem like totally random that I brought this up. But when I read the name of your album, I was like, I wonder if it had anything to do with that, because it's kind of like without giving too much away in that movie because you haven't seen it, and definitely like DM me once you watch it. But there's a hellish element to that line in the movie. And I didn't know if this had anything, because I was thinking like I had a dream I didn't have eyes. But do you care to elaborate on that at all, or do you want to leave that open to interpretation? I know that was like a weird rant that I just went on and made a connection with something you haven't even seen.
No, I can definitely elaborate. Yeah, it was one of those things where at that point where I was I've explained like I was writing this album and I was going through all of what I was going through. It was like there was that, but then also I was genuinely having dreams of just like I can't like I just didn't have eyes, and it was like almost like in those dreams I don't have eyes, and I'm looking for something, but I'm completely lost, and that was almost the catalyst to the because I had started writing but I didn't really know what I was going to call it, and I'm like that is the name, because I think that encapsulates like everything. um there's like a line that I have in one of my future songs, um, of like just talking about how like no one comes to save you, no capes, ropes, or prayers. Make sure you're prepared. And it's just like you, if the world is ending, you are on your own. No one comes to save you, so you have to find yourself, or like you have to save yourself. You're responsible. So, um, yeah,
And this was getting like apocalyptic, man. No, but I'm excited to see it. No, it is I don't know, like it is weird though when you look at around things have been and thanks for elaborating on that, man, especially after I went on a weird rant about Event Horizon. But
I
and
haven't watched the movie now.
yeah, the title definitely reminded me of it. Dude, it's gnarly too. Like I'm not trying to even like exercise the power of suggestion on you, but it's one of my favorite kind of horror sci-fi movies. I digress. But yeah, man, it is. I mean, things the last 3 years have been so weird, like on a personal level for me, plus with COVID, plus with the division, like just here in the States politically, it's just such a poop show, probably more than at any time in my life. Like sometimes I look around and I'm like, man, this isn't really a democracy. And I'm not even like, I mean, I'm not even like a political expert. So anybody with like real political knowledge is probably gonna be like, listen to this bloviating punk. But it really is like we have this divisive two-party system where each one just kind of exists to like crap on the other one, and it's just kind of like going back to like George Carlin humor where it's like you just have the illusion of choice, and
Yeah.
there's a big club and we're all not in it. And I hate to be like doom and gloom because there's still a lot of I still have a lot of faith in humanity, and there are like a lot of really good people left in the world, and I would love to believe, as hippie as it sounds, like love will always prevail, you know what I mean? And good over evil type stuff. But it has been such a crazy few years, and I don't know if it's just that we're more aware of stuff now because everybody has a camera, or if people are really this crazy. You know what I mean? It's weird. It's really weird.
Yeah, the camera on your cell phone has opened up like the world for you to just be on stage all the time, or like anyone else can just be like the the star of a road rage or something, you know. So you see it, but I mean, I'll definitely agree with you when I'm looking around and not seeing too much of like a democracy. I didn't really think it was to begin with, anyways. But I mean, now it's almost like they're not even hiding it, where they're just like, yeah, like we straight up just lied about that, and all this. Yeah, no, we don't care about you, and you can't say that, or you go to jail. And here in Canada, we don't have the First Amendment, so it's the freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Even though people say we do, I don't know if they could educate me. Um, Anyone in Canada could educate me on where we have this freedom of speech. That'd be great, because there's a lot of like hate speech laws and stuff. Like you'll get thrown into jail or have like fines thrown your way. So for me, I think it's a lot more nefarious what's happening here in Canada. Pretty crazy.
Have you run into it personally as far as like your music or anything that like anything that you put out there, like social media wise? Like, I mean, or have you been able to kind of, you know, I guess for lack of a better adjective, juke away from that type of stuff?
To be honest, I mean, I do go out, and I mean, you and I follow each other on Instagram and stuff, so you probably see a bunch of my stuff. I say some inflammatory stuff sometimes.
That's
And
what I asked. Yeah.
yeah, I poke the bear. But for me, I like to poke the bear. I like to stir the pot a little bit. That's the point of my music as well. And just me as a human, I think it's like there's a point to it all as well. There is a point. But yeah, I mean, we've caught some smoke from people um that that we thought were cool, and like we really had to. I'm not like trying to dodge stuff. That being said, but I mean, just trying to be like more careful, I guess, with who I associate with. Um, yeah, it when something like that happens to you online, you're like you feel like it's a rumor in high school, and like
Yeah.
everyone in high school is in on the rumor, and there's not a fucking thing you can do about it. And it hurts.
Yeah. I think I know the thing you're talking about. And we don't like have to
Nah,
go there.
no, yeah.
But yeah, but yeah, it's I don't know, it's tough, man. Like you said, yeah, in social media things can like catch like that. And you always hope it's the thing that you know, like the good thing that you want to catch on or like but yeah, man, it's I don't know. I mean it's important I think for all of us to like think before we speak. But you're a smart dude. I don't feel like you say crazy stuff or anything, number one. And number two, I don't think that you or at least in the conversations that like that we've had or like the content that I've seen you post, the conversation that we had before in the podcast, like you don't strike me as somebody who's like, I'm just gonna say like some crazy stuff just to say some crazy stuff. Like you said, I think it's just it seems like when you listen to your music, yeah, you've like anybody, you've had, you know, trauma in your past, things that you've gone through. You talk about that and you're vulnerable, but you're also somebody who's a skeptic, and it's good to be a skeptic. And I don't know if that's like a fellow Pisces quality, not to make everybody go, "Oh my God, this dude's going to talk about astrology." I'm not. I'm not going to start reading his palm or anything like
Turned
that through
into
the.
a white girl podcast now.
Yeah, but it's important to question, man. Like I went to school for journalism, and to me that was always like the core of, even though I did sports and music, I didn't want to do the, you know, political stuff. I didn't want to do the digging for the dirt stuff and, end up in an alley somewhere with my legs broken because I called out some authority. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's that kind of journalism, which is still really important because as we're seeing in our society, there's a lot of people in power that do crazy, terrible things and get away with it. I digress. Or allegedly do things and get away with it. I digress. But yeah, I mean, it's important to be a skeptic. It's important to question things. And freedom of speech is important. So there's a certain level of being in incendiary, I think, that is necessary in life because, as we've seen, if you let people especially people who have power. If you just let them do whatever they want, it's like that old quote, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So somebody has to say something or do something about it. And art is a big part of that.
Yeah, artists have a responsibility to push the envelope. I feel, and people have more power than they actually think they do. Like you think that you're just a person, but you can spark a lot, man, just by like questioning things, and you can try to change the way things are. It's not just like, don't say that. Like, well, why can't I say these things? Like, let's have a discussion about it. Uh, you know, I think you as a human are sort of you owe it to the world to try and leave it a better place than you found it.
100%. 100%. I think if I think it would be an interesting world, uh, like as a hypothetical, if we all had the freedom to be able to do whatever we thought our purpose was, which in a way we do, I guess, because a lot of it I'm discovering, like even doing this podcast and stuff, like it comes down to just kind of courage, at least for me, like getting past my own self-limiting beliefs and fears of whatever success or whatever it is, putting myself out there more. So maybe in a way we kind of do have like the free will to do what we want, so to speak. But I mean, like if everybody, I guess more pointedly, what I mean is like if everybody got paid to do what they really loved to do, like what would the world look like versus kind of the way that it is right now? You know what I mean? Because we all got to eat. We all like it doesn't matter if you're in Canada, the US, Africa, Russia, Ireland. It's like, most people go to work, they have jobs, they have, and then there's some people who get, they live out there whatever their childhood dream is. Like one of my brothers, he's loved planes since he was a little kid, and he's a commercial airline pilot. He's one of the few people I know that's like the thing he wanted to do when he was a kid is what he's actually doing for a living, and it's awesome. But I just wonder, like, if we had a world where everybody kind of felt like they were living their purpose, you know, would people be happier? Would they be kinder to each other? Would we see the kind of corruption that we see, um, with people that are holding the keys or have like the power that they have, or like you said, maybe even in some cases it's people aren't as powerful as they think they are. Like, I don't know. Is that make sense? Like, I mean, just kind of when you said that, I just wonder, like, what would the world look like if everybody just got to wake up every day and live their purpose, you know?
Yeah, and sometimes that changes though as you get older. Like, I mean, how many kids want to be like a rock star? But then they
True.
they kind of figure out like, hey, realistically, like I enjoy working with food. So, maybe it's not going to be a rock star, but I'm still going to like be in front of people making this food, and then all eyes are going to be on me and the team that I'm with. And we served all of these people that came to the restaurant. Like maybe that's you found your purpose in that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, man, it's interesting times, but I'm glad that we have people, pushing the boundaries like yourself. We have people that are making art that's compelling, that has something to say. It's not designed to have precision breaks and be 3 minutes and like get on whatever, you know what I mean? Like, and I think that's cool about what you're doing, man, is it seems like you're making the music that you want to make with the people that you want to make it with, you know. And one thing that I heard you mention on another interview, shout out, I believe it's the Unstarving Artist podcast. But that was a great conversation you had on that one. And one of the things that you guys were talking about on that one is just you'd brought up kind of the curated nature of the playlist stuff today, which it is interesting because it's kind of it's something I've touched on this show before about like, I think the barrier to entry if you want to make music is maybe less than it was even 20 years ago because there's so much you can do on your home on a computer. But um getting yourself out there on these playlists and stuff, you had even kind of mentioned it's almost become like pay to play. So it's like, yeah, you can make music from home, which is great, but you still gotta, at least in your case, you're like, I've gotten more connection playing live shows, and even kind of like with these major music services, it's hard to get your name out there. Was I kind of reading that correctly just from that conversation and kind of that thought stream?
Yeah, I think like people talk about this a lot, and I think it's a fairly common problem. Like Joe Schmo will want to do a song, and then he kind of has big expectations that like this song is gonna blow up, but then like it didn't blow up, and it's like, well, you didn't put any marketing behind it or anything. You just kind of like put it out, and like now everyone with a MacBook just thinks that they're an artist or a producer. It's not the case. Like it takes a long time to develop skill, develop yourself as an artist as well. Like you can rap really well, but if you're just kind of like rapping and you sound like just a ripoff of Eminem, then I don't really think you've like found your voice at all, right? So you need to take time to develop yourself as an artist. So uh yeah.
What are some of the things that you feel like you've grown um just from life of the party to now? Because like last year you did a 5-year remaster of that. Because that was your debut EP, right? It was like 2017. Um, I mean, what are some of the things like when you look back on earlier work compared to now, man, that you've made a conscious effort? Because I think that's whether you're an artist or even like an athlete, right? You're going to emulate the people that you look up to, and then eventually you kind of find your footing. But are there specific things about either your voice, your cadence, or your rhyme patterns, or the experimentation with genres? Like, is there anything in particular that you've wanted to grow or do over the last few years as you found your voice?
Yeah, I mean, I think like going back and like listening to that older music, I feel it's almost like my voice is just very shaky, and to a degree that album is me, because it's just like I was allowed to just express myself fully in that album, but then um I don't think it was like me truly as an artist. I think I was still like really like trying to find my legs on like who I was gonna be. So it's sort of just like this little um it's like a little starting point, I suppose. But yeah, there's a lot of now looking back, I'm much more comfortable with my writing ability. Um, and it took me so long to write that one project because I was just so self-conscious about all the lyrics that I was writing. But now I'm like, I think because I've just been doing it so much now that I can bang something out relatively like in a good time. Man, I'll rewrite things a bunch if I'm still not happy with it, but it'll take me less time um because I think now I just know what I want to say, and the faucet has been running so much that now I'm just like um it's a little bit easier. So in terms of that, I'm more comfortable with my writing and all the lyrics, like the rhyme schemes and the nerdy part of the raps, right? Like the verses of like, you know, I can put this word there and then put that word in there, or what can I do different? And now that I have like a certain catalog, I'm like, I already said that. What can I do to like say that same thing but say it in a different way, right? Like flip that around. So now I think like I'm building off of what I've put out before.
Yeah, and there's definitely an art, especially to hip hop, that I feel like I've appreciated more over the last even 10 years as I've gotten more into hip hop. Like I used to say like, oh, I just like the 90s stuff and all that. And then I started listening to more new hip hop, and I'm like, yo, there's some people doing some really awesome things, man. And like, and as I've gotten into the genre more, just as somebody who came from more metal, like the wordsmith part of it, um, is really cool, man. Like I think that the thing that I really loved about like a lot of the 90s stuff was the storytelling. But there's a lot of really awesome storytellers today too, man. And yeah, it's cool. It's cool to see artists continue to expand and continue to work on that. But just like the wordplay stuff is really dope to see. I mean, obviously Eminem, I think, is one of the best, if not the best at doing that kind of work. But it, man, I've gotten into like Juice World over the last few years, especially after going through a really difficult breakup. Like that dude got me through a lot of stuff, man. And like there's that one freestyle that he did. It was like I think it was like BBC where it was over Eminem beats, and he
Yeah.
just was. It was. It's crazy to see that stuff, man. So yeah, I have a lot of respect for people who keep working on their craft like yourself, man. I mean, is that something do you try to write every day? Are you somebody that's like trying to flesh out ideas, whether they come from the ether or whether you sit down and actually go, I'm going to write something? Like, how often do you kind of try to hone in on that? Or is it just one of those things that because you love it, it's just kind of always there? Like you said, the faucet's just sort of always running.
Yeah, it's always running, and I'm always trying to get different ideas um to like be inspired, and maybe it's not always I'm writing as much. Like I'll still have like rhyme schemes kind of going on all the time in my head, or like ideas for songs. I could do this differently, you know. But right now I've just been focusing on reading a lot to kind of break up the monotony of writing. Not that it's like it gets tiring, but just to kind of like expose myself to a lot more new ideas. So I kind of this year has been some like the year of where I really have been trying to read almost like a book a month. That's sort of what I've been averaging, and just it helps my my brain, right? Exercise my brain, but then also learning new words, learning how other people express those same ideas, and just like developing um, your creativity as well. So I think there's the reading, and then just exposing myself to more different types of music as well. That is super important to me.
Are you reading like fiction, nonfiction, a little bit of both?
I've been reading just a lot of fiction, to be honest. I mean, I was reading Cujo a while back. Um, uh, been obviously this whole album is sort of a sucker towards Franz Kafka, so I was diving a lot into Kafka, and then right now I'm reading One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm kind of just like going back and just reading a lot of classics that I feel like I just kind of missed out on. That I didn't read that much as a kid. In fact, I really almost hated reading, and so now I'm just trying to read anything I think is interesting.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is one of my favorite movies, man. Um, I haven't read the book, but that might be other than his I mean, and there's so many great movies, but when he was the Joker in the 1989 Batman, I love that performance from Jack Nicholson. But dude, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is so I mean, obviously like The Shining, like he's one of the greatest actors ever, but just oh my God, there's so many great lines in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I love it when he's sitting with Chief after they get in trouble and they're both just kind of sitting there chewing gum and he like gives Chief some gum and I think Chief is like, thanks. And he kind of looks at him, he's like, you can talk. He's like, and they think you're deaf and dumb. He's like, oh my God, Chief, you fooled them all. Like I just Jack Nicholson is so great in that movie. And then at the end, man, where he helps Billy, you know, Billy has his fun and then he's speaking fine. And then Nurse Ratchet threatens to like, you know, call his mother and then he kills himself. And it's like, and then you just see Jack Nicholson just lose it on Nurse Ratchet. Nurse Ratchet, I feel like, is an underrated movie villain. I think because that movie's not like a horror movie, right? It's just like a drama. She doesn't get looked at as like a villain but she sucks, man. Nurse Ratched was terrible, you know. But God, that movie was great. Christopher Lloyd was in that, a young Danny DeVito.
Oh, it's true.
Um,
Danny DeVito's in that? Mm.
yeah,
It's
Danny.
it's funny. So like reading the book and reading McMurphy's lines, it's like, oh, like it's like the unintentionally it was written for Jack Nicholson. Like that part. You just
You
like
reading it, you read it like, oh, like I could. He's definitely it's
yeah.
his.
Yeah. Everything. Like it's just the visualization. It's been a while since I watched the movie. So there's like all new like visualizations when I'm reading the book and it's like you just picture young Jack Nicholson there.
When I read, and I need to read more. I don't read hardly, and it's really sad. And I've been my sister gave me uh I always forget if it's Tolle or Tolle, but Eckhart Tolle, like the um she gave me his book, The Power of Now. I've been reading that. But I haven't read a good fiction book in a while. But I back when Cell, I remember my mom, she's a huge Stephen King fan, and she told me about make sure you read Cell. And they made a movie of it with John Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson. And the movie wasn't it didn't really do the book justice in my opinion, but it was funny because when I was reading that novel, like kind of like what you were saying about One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Jack Nicholson, like the main character who John Cusack ended up playing in the movie, I felt like that was his voice in the book. And I don't know if that's just because I had seen him in 1408 too, and maybe there was some like, you know, beams going on there, but Cell was a that was a great read. That was I've only read a couple of Stephen King books, but Cell was really I feel like kind of underrated. Have you ever read that one?
No, I haven't. I've seen it around. I haven't read it. Again, yeah, I haven't read too much Stephen King, but I mean, I just devoured Cujo. Like I think it's the fastest I think I've ever read a book. Like I just flew through that book, and then the trial was really great too. When you were speaking of like a Nurse Ratched is like a low key like just like top tier villain or like could be like it's not a horror movie, but it like could be in a way. The trial is like not like a horror novel, but the way it's almost like spaced out, it feels like it could be a very, very dark horror movie. So yeah.
I'll have to check it out, man. Well, dude, before we wrap it up, it's always great talking to you, man. Thanks again so much for taking the time to do this. Since we're just kind of on this as far as, you know, creative juices flowing and getting inspiration, can you give me like me and the listeners, like anybody that unless you don't want to give any free plugs, but you mentioned listening to different kinds of music, like what's been something that you've enjoyed lately that you want to throw out there for people, whether it's music, books, movies, you know, things that have inspired you that have helped you creatively or inspired you creatively.
Um, for me, that new Slow Tie record has been really great. I listen to that a lot. He's someone that I look up to. Um, musically, I think I appreciate what he's doing. It's just been so different, and the music industry needs him. And then Paris, Texas just dropped a dope record. Actually, they got like sort of like shoegazy rap rock kind of. It's not like overly lyrical, but it's cool with like the sound that they've developed, and I like that a lot. Um, I've been listening to a lot of UK stuff. Stormzy's been on repeat. Skepta, Ocean Wisdom as well. Those are just some of the ones that have been like really jogging my brain. Again, yeah, I like to something. I'll fall into habits of listening to the same stuff, but then once I get into this, like I find this new avenue of like just exploring UK hip hop and UK music, then it brings out all these other ideas and helps boost my creative juices.
Yeah, man. And I know you've got fans over there too. I know you mentioned was it Ireland, Dublin? You've got fans like over in Dublin. Like Is that wild to like when you look at stats or whatever and you see where people are listening from? Does ever trip you out?
It does, yeah. I mean, the UK and Ireland. I just learned this that Ireland apparently is not part of the UK from my Ireland homies. I didn't know that. That's how much I know. Um, but yeah, Ireland, then those guys have been like super supportive and would love to do a show there. There's a buddy of mine, C High. He's in a band called Idle Discourse, and they do a bunch in like Dublin and stuff. So like shout out C High. Um, yeah, it still is trippy to just be like, why the fuck do people actually just like listen to my music? That blows me away.
Well, you're reaching people, man. You're connecting, and that's what's one of the good that we've been talking about all the crappy stuff in the world. But I mean, that's social media has been great for this podcast and connected me with other creators like yourself. People who are trying to express themselves and connect with the world in a positive way. So it isn't all bad. Don't tell my dad that though. Like he's in his late 60s and he thinks social media is just everything is just he's not like Bobby Boucher's mom. Everything is the devil to you, mama. But like I'm like, Dad, there's actually a lot of good people on social media. It just depends on what you use it for. You gotta like hijack that algorithm. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't engage with the negative content. I just check out the people that I like to check out and I like that stuff and engage with that stuff and try to share it and you know yeah, so I don't see all the negative crazy awful stuff because I just don't engage with it. It's very nice. I have a very curated Instagram algorithm by design.
Nice. Yeah,
Connected to you good people.
we've tried to weed out the people that's just like it goes back to the thing of like now this is like you decide to level up or not, and that's part of it, man. Like, yo, if there's this thing that I have where if I see this person online and everything they post is just like it sucks you and it like drains you and it makes you feel like depressed and like sad, and you're like, man, that's like the person's gotta go. Like, so like muted or like, a couple of times it's just like, all right, like you're gone, right? You can't tolerate that. You got to put yourself in a good headspace.
Yeah, yeah, man. It's true. It's true. It's like and I think one thing I'm learning too, man, and I don't know if you can relate to this, but like sometimes I feel like today I almost have too much input. I'm looking at screens at work, I'm looking at my phone, you know what I mean? And like it's good to connect with people and it's cool. Like one thing that's cool about modern technologies, we can do stuff like this, but it's also like there's something about like silence too. I feel like that we all need and it's scary how like I have so much input all the time and I love music and I love movies and I love all that stuff, but I'm like it almost when you have too much input, you don't know how to sit still, you know what I mean? And like so I've been trying to get like outside more, take walks, be in nature. Maybe that sounds like cheesy to people because I do like the outdoors. I mean, I'm not like bare chested climbing rocks with my bare hands and stuff. You know what I mean? I'm just like outside taking walks and stuff. Like Tennessee's a pretty state, but can you relate to that, man? Like where you're just like, dude, I gotta like shut it off. I gotta like, like you said, read a book. I gotta get away from the blue light and the screens.
Yeah, for me, what really helps is just going for a run and just or like exercising. But I feel like a run, especially just because the phone I have for music, but I'm not really on my phone. I'm not using my phone, and I'm just able to focus on running. So I have like one task, and that is to get through this run. And sometimes it is so unbearable, and then that's the only thing that you can think about. But there's other times when I'm just going for a run, and then I actually get a chance of like hits of clarity where I'm like, oh, like I need to do this. I should market the song this way. I should do something like that with the video. That song kind of hit. Then like all these ideas start flowing once I've put down the phone and just gotten outside and like started getting active. So yeah, getting outside it helps tremendously.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, man. I feel like and that's true too, man. I feel like that's where a lot of ideas come from is when you disconnect from everything and you just kind of just free your brain from all of the other noise and just kind of zone out, you know, like that's one thing I need to do more is meditate. I have this app called Headspace, free plug. If anybody
Nice.
from Headspace is listening, you can definitely sponsor the podcast if you like. But yeah, like
Absolutely.
I listen to like the sleep music and I've done some of the meditations and stuff, but you hear people talk about like the clarity they get from meditating, and it's just like carving out the time to do that because I exercise too. That helps me with my hamster and wheel brain. You know, I like to do that and get outside as well. But like I used to do yoga more, and that's almost meditative because it's like I'm not super flexible at all. So it's like downward dog, lift your leg, lift your arm, and it's just like your whole body shaking as you're trying to like maintain balance. But then when you're done, you just feel really good because you're like, oh, I just like pushed through that. And it's kind of almost like a silent hell in some ways because you're like, oh my God, holding this position really hurts. And it's just sort of like that mental thing that you push through. But yeah, it's good to like get away from all the input, man. Like I love connecting with people, but there's only so much you can do too. Like I always and that's the thing about doing this, whether you're doing a podcast or like you're a musician like yourself, or like melodica, like like you almost have to like 360 stuff now. There's like clips and like I got a new computer and I needed one, but then it's like, oh man, I need to be doing video stuff. I need to be doing like more short video stuff. But
Yeah.
then you're like, am I posting too much? Am I not posting enough? Like it's like back in the day, if it was like 1985, like as an artist, you really just had to worry about being an artist. You didn't have to do all this other stuff. And now everybody has to be like their own LLC, you know, literally and figuratively.
No, for real, man. It is like it is what you said. Like you gotta kind of know when like enough is enough. You know, a certain degree. Like you can't do everything, and you just gotta put down the phone. If it's like if you've been so for me on like my days off and stuff, or like on release day, it's like there's just like such heavy days where I'm on the computer. I'll like make a video on the computer, then transfer it over to my phone, then like cut it up a little bit more on my phone, like do some more edits on my phone. And then like so I'm doing stuff on my phone and then I'm doing things on my computer and then I'm bouncing between and then I'm talking to people and I'm setting this up. And then as soon as you know it's like almost at 10 p.m. Really just put down the phone after like 10 p.m. of just doing all of that stuff. Like all of what you have to do can also wait, you know? Um,
Yeah.
it's about just being smart with your time and yeah, like music to me is just so important and building my brand and everything. But at the end of the day, there are also certain things that um I mean I'm a pretty big hypocrite saying this just because Melodica tells me all the time, just put down the fucking phone. It's like we'll be watching a movie and I was just like, oh, maybe I should like make a clip real quick. Like let me make a clip real quick. And I caught myself doing that last night too. Like why? Like, there's no need. Just you can't do everything. Just leave it for tomorrow.
It's true. It's true. Well, before we officially wrap it up, man, again, everybody go check out the as of hearing this, who knows, maybe they might be a new one out as they're hearing this, because this will be either late August, early September when this hits everybody's ears. But definitely check out the three singles that have been out so far, and everybody keep your eye out for
There's
I
four
Had a Dream,
songs
I
in
Can Have
total.
Eyes.
There's four songs
Um,
in total.
with the Oh, that's right. Well, you've got It's Okay, I'll Be All Right, the instrumental,
Yeah.
right? And then this the new-ish sped up. So really it could be what, like five,
I mean,
technically, right?
yeah, that's true. I forgot about the sped up version. People were asking for that one, so that's why we did it. But yeah, there. I decided to do the double feature of Die Tonight and then It's Okay, I'll Be All Right.
It isn't It's Okay, I'll Be All Right, isn't it? In the beginning of when you're coming out of the dumpster for Blood
Hey,
on Your
yeah,
Hand.
you got it. Yeah, that's a dig right there. Good job. Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
pay attention, dude. I pay attention, man. I'm not a rookie out here. No, no.
no, man.
I like the instrumental too, man. It was it's a cool, completely different chill vibe compared to the singles. It's cool. It's almost like I can see it being if I'm foreshadowing, and maybe I'll be completely wrong on this, but I can see it being like a cool, almost like interlude at some point in the record. I don't know. Maybe I'm forecasting something that's not going to happen, but I can see it going from like that being like a good segue into another track and or a calmer outro after a heavier track. Am I wrong on that?
Nah, you're not wrong, man. You're putting together the puzzle really, really well. Yeah, that was the whole point of that. Was like the album is pretty heavy, and it's like, yeah, you just gotta kind of calm down every once in a while. Going back to that, take some time, just chill out after all of that anger. Yeah, that's what's up.
Well, and shout out Cross Stitch, Jaybird, Roma Johnson so far. I know that there's going to be other collabs coming up on this and other people that you're working with. And yeah, man, I'm excited to hear the whole thing. So as this is going to hit people's ears, and again, I don't want to like spill the tea or anything or like, let the cat out the bag, so to speak, on anything that you still want to keep under wraps. But being that this will be late August, early September when everybody's listening to this, is there going to be another new one out by then?
I'm playing that by ear. I got a couple loaded right now. Um, People may or may not know, but like Melodica and I got something in the bank. So we're gonna debut that at the show in Toronto. So
Oh, nice, nice. I don't think I knew that. I think I saw the there's been some teaser clips for a music video for her that I've seen. Is this
yes.
that or something different?
No, her music video for Party Like 2009 is completely different. Although it goes like that's like uh, honestly, that music video is just better than all of my music combined. It's so fucking good. So yeah, we're super excited to release that.
Yeah, I'm excited for both of y'all, man. And I'm glad that you guys are doing well. And yeah, dude, it's great to catch up. Real quick, you mentioned podcasts. Obviously, I'm doing this show. Um, you and I, before we officially hit record, we have a shared love and because we follow each other and thank you by the way too, man, when you comment and like my stuff and I try to do the same for you and other people too, man, because I've heard you say it in other interviews and I really try to live that where it's like, I want everybody to shine. So it's like anytime somebody takes the time to do this show, I really appreciate it. Even beyond that, like I respect what you're doing as a creator, man. So genuinely, man, thank you for the love you show on my stuff. And I try to show the same love for you and Melodica and all the other people I have on the show, man. And again, that goes back to the thing where I'm like, I always feel like I need to do more. Like I gotta share more in my stories. I gotta like, you know what I mean? But I genuinely appreciate that, man. But I know we have a shared love for your mom's house and our guy Tom Segura. So
Yes.
um I've been a mommy for a minute, man. I want to say a good probably like 5, 6 years now. Because there's a clip from their podcast where there's a dude singing Staying Alive. I think you know the clip that I'm probably
Yeah,
referencing.
man uses lung as an instrument.
Yes, and that's like 5 years old. And I was so I think I've been listening to them, yeah, since like 2018, 2017, somewhere in there. But yeah, man, I love that. Come Down Later from Moose Soup is probably one of my I mean, I text my brother that like every couple of weeks. We laugh our butts off at that. The clips they find are incredible. The team that they have where they just find like epic weirdos is I love it. It's hilarious.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. Like, and what's actually really cool about that show though is that like, there's a couple of people that have like followed me just from my shenanigans of that. Like, I'll post anytime. Like, I'll comment when Garth Brooks makes a post. So like, and usually I'm like, "Good morning, kings and queens above 18." The like King
Oh
Love
yeah.
You, like that. And there's been like a couple of people who'd be like, "Yo, I saw your comment. I went onto your YouTube, and I did not expect like this type of music. Like, good job." Um, Shout out, I think her name Jade from Texas. That's how we got connected. And she's a mommy as well. And yeah, the community that they have is really cool. And then when you're like actually able to like bond over that, you're like, yeah.
That's sick. Yeah, I think I when I scrolled and looked at some comments on one of your music videos, I think I saw that. Yeah, where it was like somebody was like, I don't know if it was her, but somebody was like, "Man, I saw you comment on YMH and I went down like a rabbit hole and I found your music." That's cool, man. That's cool. Yeah,
It's really cool.
yeah, it's cool. It's cool how people can connect like that, man. But yeah, there's a lot theirs is in my regular rotation. I love YMH. I do love JRE too. I love Bill Simmons, the sports guy out of Boston. I love his stuff. Um, but I also love like Whiskey Ginger. I listen to a lot of comedy podcasts. You mentioned, Mark Norman and Sam Morril. I love their show. We Might Be Drunk. Right. Yeah, like
Yeah.
that's a good listen. Like I love all those, man. Are there any ones that are in like your regular rotation beyond like YMH?
Yeah, you had mentioned that like the bulk of them. And so I just want to put this out because my fans, it's been a running joke since like I dropped the new shit to try and get Gwen Stefani to holler back because I mentioned like she gonna be my Gwen Stefani, she gonna holler back, and then I when we were dropping the song, it's been like this steady thing like guys, like she still hasn't answered. Go tag Gwen Stefani, tell her that she needs to holler back, all this type of stuff. And so my my KO crew have been like, steady on that. And what's funny is the podcast that I listen to. So like, I tweeted at Tom Segura not long ago because I listened to Two Bears and they were talking about cow tipping. And as someone that's from the country, I can honestly say cow tipping is not real. And so I just was like, hey, Tom Segura, cow tipping isn't real. And then he like retweeted it and was like, yes, it is. So, and then I shared the clip of the Lewis Black clip from We Might Be Drunk to promote my music. And then Mark Norman put it in his story. So I've got more love from comedians than Gwen Stefani. I just want to put that out there that I'm pretty angry at Gwen Stefani and I might drop a rap beef.
I've seen some of the Gwen tag stuff, man. Um, well, who knows, man? Maybe now that we're putting it out in the universe, you'll hear from her. But
Yeah.
dude, this has been it's been awesome catching up with you. I could probably talk to you for another hour, but I know you
Same,
just
man.
had the stuff done, and I don't want to keep you because it's after 10 o'clock Toronto time. But it's always great catching up with you, man. I'm glad that we got a chance to connect, and I think it's cool that you're just making the music that you love to make, man, and that you've got your audience that's riding with you, and you've got your mom's house people, coming in on the stuff too. That's really cool, man. But it's always great catching up. You're welcome back anytime. And for people who aren't aware, I'll obviously put up the links in the podcast description, but let them know where they can find you, man.
Yeah, I'm Crossed Out Music. You just type in Crossed Out, KROSSTOUT, um, crossedoutmusic.com on Spotify. Go stream my new stuff. Pay attention because the full album is coming soon.
Sweet. Well, go enjoy the rest of your night, dude. Thank you so much. Always
Thanks,
good
man.
chatting with you, man.
Yeah, you too. All right, man. Peace. Have a good one.
Alrighty, dighty, there you have it. That was my conversation with Canadian alternative artist Krosst Out. Make sure you go follow my guy on Instagram at Krosst Out Music, and that is spelled KROSST. His website is crossedoutmusic.com. The links with all of his stuff will be in the podcast description for this episode. So just scroll down to the bottom of the podcast description, hit those links, and go follow and support my dude Krosst Out. You will not be disappointed, especially if you are into hip hop, if you are into punk, if you are into alternative. Excuse me. This dude mixes all of it in his music, and I'm really excited for what he's got on the horizon. Keep an eye out for his forthcoming LP, I Had a Dream, I Didn't Have Eyes. Check out all the new music he has released this year. This the Newish, Blood on Your Hands, Die Tonight. The instrumental, It's Okay, I'll Be All Right, is great. The music videos are great. And if you are in Toronto, he's got a show this Thursday, September 14th, at the Piston in Toronto. So, once again, all those links will be in the podcast description for this episode. I just want to say once again to Aaron, aka Krosst Out, dude, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast. I greatly appreciate the time. It was great to reconnect. That was the first time we had a conversation like that in almost 2 years, man. It was 2 years too long, but you've always shown me love on IG, and I try to show you and Melodica love as well because it's a mutual respect thing for what you guys are doing as fellow content creators out here and people chasing after their dreams and trying to be good to people in the world, man. And I have a lot of respect for what you're doing and for putting out art that means something to you and not being afraid to say what's on your mind and challenge the status quo. So keep doing your thing, man. Keep doing it as long as you love to do it. And I can't wait to hear the full thing. And I know your fans feel the same way. And to everybody listening, thank you so much as well. And one thing that I did just want to, reiterate or clarify, even if you will, since Aaron and I did talk about the pandemic and stuff, once again, my stance on all of that, especially as somebody who works in healthcare during the day, if I had to go back and do it over again, and this is just me talking here, I'm not trying to be prescriptive to any of you or your bodies or your health and whatever you want to do, it's your choice. I'm not trying to influence you either way. I'm merely trying to tell you my stance on it. Looking back on COVID, there's definitely some things that I didn't like, but if I had to do it over again, I still would have gotten the vaccine. As somebody who's had 5 surgeries in his lifetime, I've had 3 eye surgeries. I had major surgery for a tumor when I was a senior in high school, which is crazy because it's like half my life ago now. It'll be 16 years in March that happened. I digress, but I still much rather would have gotten vaccinated than not have gotten vaccinated and you know deal with what comes you know, from that. You know what I mean? And again, to each their own. People, it's your body, and you have the right to do with it what you want to. But for me and my safety and what I felt was best at the time, and even now, I still would have gotten the vaccine. And if I had to do it all over again, I would get it again. Because I didn't want to take that chance as somebody who was immunocompromised, as somebody who's really susceptible to sinus infections. I mean, you know, I'm doing a podcast right now with a, late night radio jazz voice because I was sick this last week because I got a sinus infection. So, the proof is in the pudding for me, so being that it's something that attacks your respiratory system and your sinuses and everything like that, like there was no way I was going to take that risk and not get vaccinated. And even just from being in healthcare and seeing some of the data that we saw in our hospitals and whatnot, like I just felt like even though I'm somebody who tries to take good care of himself and tries to eat well, if I had to do it over again, I still would have got vaccinated. So that was a choice I made for myself and your body. Yours is exactly that. It's your choice. It's your business. But I just wanted to clarify that. Again, when I look back on everything that happened, um, the whole thing became very politicized, and at the end of the day, it shouldn't have been. It was a global pandemic. A lot of people died, and there were better ways to handle it. And unfortunately, I think we saw a lot of divisiveness and a lot of misinformation, and I think that clouded a lot of people's judgment. And and lives were affected. The music industry was affected. The entertainment was industry was affected, and not even the entertainment industry. I mean, small businesses, people losing their jobs, people losing their lives. Man, the ultimate price. So I think things could have been done better. Hopefully, there's not a next time, but I do hope that the powers that be, uh, both good and bad, learn from this and do better for all of us going forward as human citizens, man. Because at the end of the day, I just want people to love each other and be happy and be left alone, man. As long as you're not hurting any other living creatures out there, man. I don't care what you do. I don't care what you look like, how you roll. Just be good to each other. You know what I mean? Be kind, make each other laugh, pursue what makes you happy, work hard, and the rest is the rest. That's how I try to live my life. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I'm not the smartest guy. I'm not the strongest guy. I'm not the wealthiest guy in the world, but I was raised to treat people the right way, and that's how I try to move through the world. So, anyway, I ranted a lot in the beginning, but I did have a lot to say because it was an emotionally heavy couple of weeks. So I'm not going to rant as much here at the end, other than to say thank you all for listening. I genuinely appreciate it. I love bringing you guys these episodes. And, there was no way I was not going to put this one out, even though it's a week later than I would have liked to, but it still kind of worked out because it's right in sync with the show that's coming up this Thursday. Once again, 9:14 in Toronto at the Piston. Go see Crossed Out, crossedoutmusic.com, at Crossed Out on Instagram. You know what it is. Go check them out. And if you would be so kind, even though I hate begging for these things, if you take the time to like and subscribe, to share the episode, tell a friend to tell a friend, all those things go a long way in helping these shows get out to more people. And that's what I want, not because I'm trying to be rich and famous and walk red carpets and drive Maseratis and, have a butler. All right. Even though I love Batman, I digress. But because I just want to connect with people in a positive way, and I want to put more people on to independent creators out there like Krosst Out, who is chasing his dreams, doing what he loves to do, along with his girlfriend Melodica, and just want to put people on to good people who have something to say, man. So if you would be so kind, take the time to do those things. It really helps. And once again, you can follow me at March 4th Pod on Instagram, on YouTube at March 4th Pod. My website is march4thpod.com. And all of that is in the podcast description as well. So I'm going to wrap it up officially because I'm getting a little sleepy. And I'm going to probably take a couple of ibuprofen. I didn't after the intro. So, um, but yeah, man, just be good to each other out there. I say it at the end of every episode. Keep the faith and be kind to one another. Graham, Gramp, I love you. I miss you. Thank you for all the years and all the memories. I will always hold you near and dear. And I know you're listening as well. And to all of you, I hope you have a great week, man. Courtesy of Crossed Out, here is his single featuring PsydeShow. This one's called Die Tonight. Peace.
Yeah. Fuck around and die. Fuck around and die with me. Like it's suicide. Fuck this, man. You gotta ask him what you value in life. Pull the trigger if you do. Pull the trigger if you don't. When the fuckers can get it on sight. I'ma fuck around and die tonight. Yeah. You gotta ask him what you value in life. Pull the trigger if you do. Pull the trigger if you don't. When the fuckers can get it on sight. I'ma fuck around and die tonight. Yeah. You gotta ask him what you value in life. Pull the trigger if you do. Pull the trigger if you don't. I'm finna die tonight, no chance to free crack, drinking cyanide. Prescience is so big, leave you petrified. I'm looking forward to the end, already dead inside. Yes, is where the beast resides. I'm mowing you down, string up your inside. No place I can't find you, nowhere to hide. I'ma run you out, but the gas and die. Inciting the tridents with phrases. No Superman coming to save us. Your pants fall on deaf ears named Jesus. I'm the labels if we try to see changes. I got a cheat, don't get past your defense. Pull out my shiny cock, get back you bastards. I'm a mission laying flat on the floor. No need to worry, it with us no more. We can ram all the seal bloody studies. Wanna aim to the rich and leave a bloody money. Yeah, I came empty-handed, I ain't leaving with nothing. I bag a beast and a line, shit, I'm going hunted. I'm smoking ambitious, I am the destroying. I'm not doing this for the praise of the light. My dance to the devil freely by the moonlight. Did you feel up like the drink that I got night? You wanna know how much you value in life? Oh, shit. I'm playing with death every night. Shit, rush and relax with those 6 shots going into the head. Don't even know that a chance. They got a bone to pick with this world. Fit to be throwing around. Let's get the pistol whip with these rounds and ball them in there. Run by the neck and start throwing them out. One by one, you can call it cleaning up. I call it keeping it camp. They talking hopes when they soapbox. What I mean, well, I throw my cynicism on a pedestal and throw rocks. Rush the cops, instead of pro-blacks. Jokes on you, I'm running this whole spot. Cause my generation degenerates. We worship bitches with no jobs. And have these politicians reminding us of with no one. You gotta ask him what you value in life. Pull the trigger if you do. Pull the trigger if you don't. Motherfuckers can get it on sight. I'ma fuck around and die tonight. Yeah. You gotta ask him what you value in life. Pull the trigger if you do. Pull the trigger if you don't. Motherfuckers can get it on sight. I'ma fuck around and die tonight. Yeah. You gotta ask him what you value in life. Pull the trigger if you do. Pull the trigger
know, you wear a coat and tie, you can say anything you fucking want. And that's why you listen to these assholes who come on TV and we're like your senator and shit.
Yeah.
Because they're wearing a tie.